I've done hundreds of BRRRR deals and helped thousands of people do the same. The BRRRR method is a way to buy real estate using none of your own money. I've bought $50 million worth of real estate with the BRRRR method, and it's created financial freedom for me and my family, all without using any of my own money. If you want to buy real estate and you don't want to use any of your own money, there is no better, more abundant method than the BRRRR method. However, you have to implement it properly if you want it to work. So in this video, I'm going to go over the 5 steps of the BRRRR method and give you the biggest mistake that I see new investors making when they try to utilize the BRRRR method. All right, just to get you caught up, the BRRRR method stands for buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and systemize. It is a methodology to follow to buy real estate and own real estate rental properties using little to none of your own money. Here's a quick, simple math example. Don't worry about the numbers, it's more about the process. So you borrow $100,000 to buy, B, a distressed property. Then you borrow another $50,000 to R, rehab that distressed property. So you have $150,000 in a property that is no longer distressed. At that point, you move on to the R, rent, and you get the property rented and you start to collect cash. Then you move on to the R, the refinance step, where you are getting a loan from a bank, a cash out refinance. The property is worth $200,000 and the bank gives you an 80% cash out refinance. So that's $160,000. You take the $160,000 and you pay back your private lender the money they lent you to buy it and rehab it, that $150,000. So they got their $150,000 back plus interest. Now you do owe the bank that $160,000, but use rent to pay back the bank every single month, and then you systemize it. Sorry that was fast, but that's what the BRRRR method is in a nutshell. Now let's go over each step and I'll give you the biggest mistake and the solution that most newbies make when utilizing the method. B, this one's probably simple, but the biggest mistake people make in the buy step is they overpay for the property. Now there are several reasons for this. The first reason is usually just lack of experience. It's your first deal, you don't know exactly how everything's going to play out. You don't have your hard costs for rehab costs. You don't know exactly how long it's going to take you. And there are just a lot of unknowns and you tend to overpay. And the other reason, which is almost as prevalent, not quite as much though, is people get emotional. They want this deal to work so badly. They've analyzed 10 or 15 deals and they want it to happen now and they want to get rich now. So they end up overpaying because they get emotional and they think everything's going to go right. I'm letting my emotion get involved, and they make an unsound financial decision and they pay too much. The fix to this is pretty simple. Stick to your buy box. Stick with your numbers. Don't let emotion get involved when you're underwriting the deal and you're trying to figure out what you should pay by figuring out what the property is going to be worth and what it's going to rent for and all the factors you're looking into when you figure out what you're going to pay for this distressed property. Be conservative and add extra fluff in there. You may miss a deal or two that you could have bought that may have worked out, but if this is your first or your 5th deal, you need this deal to work out. So it's better to pass on a few deals that maybe would work out. No one knows for sure, and it's going to be a tightrope walk to get to work out, than just passing on those deals and getting deals that you know and can't guarantee, but are very confident they're going to work out. So leave emotion out of it, stick to the numbers, and be conservative, and you can really avoid a ton of issues with this initial buy step. You'll miss out on some, but that's okay. All right, let's move on to the first R, which is rehab. And you can probably guess the biggest mistake here is people underestimating how much it's going to actually cost to repair the property. It's not always the labor and materials. That's definitely a part of it. Another big part of it, though, is they underestimate the timetable that it's going to take to get the property done and rehab. Now, of course, it's really difficult to know exactly how much a rehab is going to cost and how much it's going to end up costing you. If you, myself, and 10 other people all walked a property, we'd all come up with 10, 11, 12 different rehab numbers, and we'd all be wrong and we'd all be right. Rehabs are a little bit like science and art and math combined. There are things you can do, there are things you should do, and there are just things that happen that you can't control. So the best way to avoid mistakes here in this rehab step is trifold. Number 1, get multiple bids when you're looking to buy the property. Get a contingency on that first property that you buy or that next property that you buy, and in that 10 to 15 day contingency period, have contractors walk the property and get hard bids. The second thing is having a detailed scope of work and process to flow through. This one's huge, and this is what people inside my community and people that are inside mentorships, one of the biggest benefit they have is a second set of eyes and a process and a system and a worksheet to work through to help narrow down the actual hard costs that are going to go into the rehab. And then the last thing again is to be conservative here. If your initial numbers show you that it's a $50,000 rehab, I would personally put $55,000 to $60,000 in my rehab budget just to cover any extra fluff after I was already conservative with the initial numbers. All right, the next R is the rent step. And the biggest mistake I see in this step by far is not taking the time to approve the right tenant. There are more good tenants out there than good landlords. So if you're a good person and you're going to treat your tenants fairly, you will have your pick of really, really good quality tenants. Don't just approve someone that makes enough money and can fog a mirror. Make sure to have conversations with them, have a strict underwriting and screening criteria that you use or that the property management company you hire uses, because I know a lot of you, especially at first, are going to hire a property management company, and there is nothing wrong with that. Let the professionals be professional, but you need to manage them. You need to set expectations as to who you want inside your properties, and you need to have clear guidelines that they follow. Our tenants stay an average of 4 to 5 years, but it also takes us an extra 2 to 3 weeks to approve a tenant because we're very strict in the approval process, but in the long run, everyone's happier. The next R is the refinance step, and this is where you get a new loan based on the new value so you can pay back your initial lenders that you borrowed the money from to buy and to rehab the property. The biggest mistake I see here is people not getting all the money back that they wanted. Now, there's a couple reasons for that. Number one is they didn't buy it deep enough and they overspent on the rehab, so their cost to own is more than what it's worth, or not more than what it's worth, but their cost to own is more than 80% of what it's worth, so they have to leave a few grand in the deal. My first thought with that is that's not the end of the world to me. Hopefully you understand that this might, as you're getting started, not work out exactly as planned, like nothing does. So if you're able to buy a few $100,000 property, but you have to leave 5 grand in the deal because it didn't quite appraise for what you thought, and you need to leave 5 grand in it to make it all work, that's a pretty good deal in my opinion. You're not putting 25% down, you're just putting a few percent down. So having the expectation that this may end up costing you a few grand if things don't go right, rather than putting 25% down. So I think just having that expectation, if that makes sense, can help with this process. But another thing is shopping around and getting with the right lenders, like FasterFreedom Capital, for example. We are a short-term funder and a long-term DSCR funder, meaning we do those cash-out refinances, and we have some of the lowest rates, if not the lowest rates in the country. So if you don't use FasterFreedom Capital or a company like mine, then you're leaving money on the table. For example, we can do like 6%-ish, depending if you qualify, loans over 30 years. You're gonna cash flow pretty heavily, and as long as it appraises out, you're not gonna need to bring any money to the table or very little money, and you'll have a really, really good long-term loan that allows this product, this property, to produce long-term cash flow and long-term wealth for you in the long run. Notice those were all long runs. Buying rental properties with the BRRRR method, there's no short-term get-rich-quick part of this, just like there's no short-term get-rich-quick part of any way to actually create any wealth. So go with the right lenders, have the expectation that it might cost you a little bit of money, and just go with this. I think it's better to spend a few grand on a rental property than to spend a few grand in a 401k or an IRA or any other type of investment that's not guaranteed like real estate is. Because over time, real estate goes up in value, the tenants pay down the mortgage, you get cash flow, you get tax savings, and you can leverage your way to doing that, and that's why real estate's the best investment ever. And the last step, S, is systemize. The biggest mistake that people make in this step is they don't have systems. Not having systems and processes to follow that are repeatable, that are improvable, and that create efficiency just makes every deal like you're pulling out your hair. And every single deal you're looking for new contractors or trying to raise money from new sources and trying to underwrite it the right way and figuring out what this last roof cost you and what this next roof's going to cost you. Having systems and processes makes the world a better place as far as the business sense of the word goes. Those companies that have systems and processes, like I instantly think of like Chick-fil-A or McDonald's. When people buy into those franchises, they buy the systems, the processes, the operating procedures, the scopes of how to operate that business, the hiring procedures, the firing procedures, the when to order the food, the how to open up and shut down, how to maximize every single part of that restaurant. That's why people pay millions of dollars to buy those franchises. They're really buying those systems and processes. The same can be said with real estate investors. Those that are willing to invest in someone else's systems and someone else's mentorship, they get handed the playbook, and you just have to follow the playbook Will there be audibles needed? Yes, of course, because that's what real estate and life and business is. However, you will go into the game, you will go into this wealth creation mode of your life with a backup plan, an insurance plan, and systems to follow. So I think the mistake here is thinking you can do this on your own. Getting over your ego, spending a little bit or a lot of bit of money on somebody else's guidance is the best way forward, in my opinion. And I even have a free resource for you here. If you go into the description of this video, you will see a resource for my school community that is absolutely free. There's over 12 hours of free content and resources, a community forum, all for free. I'm trying to grow the biggest free real estate investing community on school. So go to the description, join it, no strings attached, it's free, and this can help you in this process and help you learn more from this. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, share this with a friend, and in the comments, ask any question and I will answer it personally. See you on the next one.